Let's dive into the discussions shaping the nation.
Roderic O'Gorman.
Thank you, Count Corla. Minister, the renewed slaughter in Gaza has now claimed hundreds more lives since Benjamin Netanyahu broke the ceasefire on the 18th of March. And in that time, we've seen the overall death toll from Israeli attacks break 50,000. The UN Human Rights Council reporting on the destruction of maternal and reproductive healthcare facilities, and now another war crime with the massacre of Red Crescent medical workers, and the lies that were told by the Israeli Defence Forces about the circumstances of their death have now been revealed. The renewed killing by the Israeli government has entirely undercut their justification of the war in seeking to free hostages, a point made clear by the tens of thousands of Israeli citizens demonstrating against the broken ceasefire. In the recent past, Ireland had taken a leadership role within the EU. We led in the call for the review of the EU-Israel Association Agreement. We participated in the ICJ case on the occupation that was decided last July. And in May of last year, we finally recognised the State of Palestine. But that active role has changed since the US presidential election, and particularly since the general election here. Minister, I put it to you that Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael have made a conscious choice that Ireland will take no more political leadership in relation to Gaza in the lifetime of this government. And I put it to you that the government will never pass an Occupied Territories Bill. Not the comprehensive version that's already cleared the Seanad, not the weak, not the watered-down version that you propose in your own programme for government. When, in the face of war crimes, in the face of ethnic cleansing, in the face of genocide, we should be redoubling our efforts, your government is stepping back. It's time for honesty now. We know what is happening in Gaza is a monumental crime. Does our country still stand for a world in which powerful states cannot trample over human rights and extinguish thousands of lives? Or do we allow this new fear created by global strongmen to overpower the deep-seated humanitarian instincts of the Irish people? Minister, if I'm wrong in my belief that this government will take no more political steps to support Palestine, tell me how you'll prove me I'm wrong. Once committees are established, commit here today to a committee-stage debate on the current Occupied Territories Bill and let the opposition bring forward amendments to deal with issues that have been raised. And if you're not prepared to do that, will you at least tell us when the Minister for Foreign Affairs will bring forward the government's watered-down version of the Occupied Territories Bill for debate in this House, so we can at least assess what benefit, if any, it can bring to pressurising Israel to stop its slaughter?
Minister.
Thank you, Deputy, for raising this matter. And could I just at the outset acknowledge your role and your leadership in the previous government in making sure and in supporting the previous government so that Ireland was to the fore in supporting Palestine and supporting a two-state solution and calling for the release of hostages, the unconditional release of hostages. But I do utterly reject your assertion that this government has in any way changed in that position or that view. And can I assure you, Deputy, and indeed deputies in the House and every other person listening, that this still and remains an absolute priority and is central to our foreign policy in the Department of Foreign Affairs and into the work that we do as a government. And in fact, this issue will be raised at the Foreign Affairs Committee on Monday, where the Taoiseach will attend in Luxembourg and where they will engage with Palestinian authorities. And the Taoiseach will be relaying our very clear commitment, and that is to a peaceful solution, that is to a two-state solution, that is to the absolute need and necessity for humanitarian aid to be let into Gaza, but also for the unconditional release of hostages. I too, Deputy, am utterly appalled by the resumption of airstrikes by Israel, and I utterly condemn that. I utterly condemn the murder of aid workers and hospital workers over the last number of weeks, people who were found with their hands bound with bullet wounds. These were not people who were shooting on anyone. These were aid workers who were there to protect people. And really, I mean, this is a war on children. in the first week since airstrikes resumed, there were 1,000 children who were maimed, murdered, and there were thousands more who are at risk now, who are at millions at risk of starvation. And so our priority and our focus has not and will not change. You'll ask, what have we done in the last number of weeks alone? In the last number of months, we've given 20 million more funding to UNRWA. This is the only organisation that we know, even though they're not being led at the moment, but this is the organisation we know can support Palestinians. That is on top of funding that has previously been provided, 72 million in total to protect. You've mentioned the ICJ case. The Attorney General made an interjection, and as part of that, following the ruling, and you're right, last May the 28th, we recognised Palestine, but what we have been doing is constantly pushing forward when other countries are pushing back. We've worked collectively with our colleagues in Europe, in particular Spain and Norway. We have used our platforms, be it in the European Councils, be it on an international stage, be it in the visits that have happened over the last number of weeks and months, to make our position absolutely clear. What is happening is wrong. The murder of innocent children and civilians is wrong. The resumption of airstrikes is wrong. The preventing of humanitarian aid into Gaza is wrong. And the fact that hostages have not been released is utterly wrong. And I condemn Hamas and the fact that they are continuing to cause this and continuing to inflict pain and harm as well. And so our focus has to be in making sure that the ceasefire deal that brought about some bit of reprieve and a stay and a pause for the millions of people, that is resumed, that is put back in place, and that aid can be immediately brought back into the millions of people who are suffering, and that the hostages can be released.
Deputy O'Gorman.
Minister, we see slaughter in Gaza every single day, and in light of that, it's not enough to rely on the things we did last year. The Occupied Territories Bill is a concrete act that fulfills our obligations under international law, legal obligations that were made clear to us last July by the decision of the International Court of Justice. 3 weeks ago, just down the hallway, the UN Special Rapporteur, Francesca Albanese, told myself and other members of the Oireachtas, if things keep going this way, it will be the end of Palestinians in Palestine. Those were her exact words. We don't need to look at the images on our screen. We've been warned in this very building what is at stake for the people of Palestine. But in the face of mounting atrocities, your government's response is to step back from the leadership role. And this is most clearly demonstrated by the fact that your government will never pass any Occupied Territories bill.
Thank you, Deputy Minister.
It is in the programme for government. We've said very clearly that we will implement it. The Taoiseach, I know, is meeting with Senator Black in the coming days. Senator Black is the member of the Seanad who brought forward this bill, and she herself is very clear that we need to get this right, that this is not straightforward. You're right, it's because of the ruling of the ICJ that the situation, that the dynamic that we're working in has changed, that we are now able to bring forward this legislation, but we do have to get it right. We do have to make sure that there aren't unintended consequences, and that the objective of the bill is to help bring about a lasting peace and solution, and that has to continue to be our focus and our priority. I mean, it was referred to earlier on in the week, the hatred that has now been instilled in so many people. It's difficult to see how there is a solution here, how there is a way forward, but we have to keep that focus, we have to keep that ambition and that priority. And this Monday in Luxembourg, when this is discussed at the European Council or the Foreign Affairs meeting, that's exactly what the Taoiseach will be doing. That's exactly why he travelled to the Western Bank recently, to not just engage with our own troops and our soldiers who are there in peacekeeping missions, but to make it clear that our objective, our goal is to work with every single person here to try and bring about a peaceful solution and to end the suffering of millions of people.
Now,
Like, share, and subscribe, and let us know your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear from you.